Okay, my friends, I'm back. Now, just a brief word from your sponsors before we start. It may seem to some of you that we're a collecting channel. We've become a bit one note lately, i.e. I have done a lot of videos on paperbacks, vintage paperbacks. Now, I just thought I would explain that there's a reason for this, and any of you who are collectors will understand what I'm talking about here. Collecting goes around in cycles. Now, that cycle can be 3 months, can be 6 months, can be years. Depends what your main passion is at the time. Now, when I began this channel, it was a game, film, and steelbook channel. That's all I did, and that was the cycle that went on for a couple of years before we branched out into other things that caught my interest. But at the moment, I'm stuck in this cycle of my passion with vintage paperbacks, science fiction, fantasy. And I mean, that goes back 70 years. I started reading when I was 4, Rupert Annuals, which had an element of fantasy in them, which probably led me to, more fantastical and science fiction type of things. And books have been a constant over that 70 years, so it's natural that I might revert back to the books when I got rid of so many about 30 years ago. So at the moment, it's just a passion of mine to be getting that stuff back, as you've seen in the videos I do. But today we're going to have a look at some stuff that I've actually had for the last 50 years, most of it. And the reason that I'm doing this particular video is because I'm reading, I've started reading the complete Elric series by Michael Moorcock. Elric always, although I'm not by no means a sword and sorcery fan as such, Elric has always been an interesting character to me. And so I decided that I would get right up to date and read the whole saga, because there are some of the later books that I never read back in the day. So today we're going to have a look at Elric, some of the other Moorcock fantasy characters, and some other fantasy books that I've got knocking around that I thought I would show you anyway. So let's, after that little lot, sorry if I bored you there, but I just thought I would explain where the channel is at the moment. So yeah, Elric. Now, many moons ago, Door Books in the 70s, early 70s, mid 70s, they did 6 books, which was kind of the complete Elric at the time. Elric had been published by Lancer Paperbacks, but a lot of those stories were expurgated or edited and just not good. So Door SF went about correcting that and doing the whole saga as Michael Moorcock would like it to be. And that's what I've started reading. So I read the first volume, Elric of Melniboné. That's the first in the series. Now, as you said, that's a nice Michael Whelan cover there. I like him; he's a good artist. Now, I mean, I love these Door books anyway. I wish I'd get. I mean, I sold all mine. I had a complete run up to about 300 or something, and I stupidly got rid of most of them. I've still got a few left. Yeah, so that's the first one which I have read and enjoyed. It's quite a good page turn. I mean, Moorcock is prolific. He's kind of, you could, I mean, a lot of people say he's a hack, but he's very, very much more than a hack, because he brings a right sensibility to everything, and the stories are not, sort of boring on one note, and that's a good page turner. Actually, I enjoyed reading that. That's good. He's got a more sophisticated way of telling these stories, So yeah, that's where we kicked off. Now you'll see the cover there that previously published as The Dreaming City. Now that's what I was telling you about. That's these Lancer books, which were heavily edited and expurgated, and that's the original book. They changed the title from Dreaming City to Elric of Melniboné. Okay, so that was the original. Now, this one I'm reading at the moment, Sailor on the Seas of Fate. Now, this was actually written after the other 5 books in this definitive series was written, but it's actually the second in line. So, I mean, you can read these books in any way you please. They don't really follow on. But this was written as the second volume, and it does carry on from the first book there, but you can read it as a standalone. And that is actually all original. That is the first printing of that story. It doesn't exist anywhere else. And then the third one is The Weird of the White Wolf. As you can see there, it was originally issued as Stealer of Souls by Lancer Books, and there you have it. I mean, I've kept these books just as out of historical interest because I love the character. I just got anything that was Elric, basically. But that was the first American publication, and as I say, it was expurgated, so not as it should have been. But nice to have, nevertheless, and I shall pay them. Right then, the third one in the series was the fourth one in the series. I'll get these out of order. Bear with me a moment. Unless my adding up's wrong. We've gone 1, 2, no, 3. Well, yeah, 3 was Weird of the White Wolf. It's me, man. Forget it, I'm going stupid. This is the fourth book, The Vanishing Tower. And originally that was published as The Sleeping Sorceress. These are all first paperbacks, by the way, as far as Door's concerned, first Door printings anyway. June 1977, this particular one. That was originally, as I say, The Sleeping Sorceress when Lancer published it, and there it is there. Okay. Then the fifth book is Bane of the Black Sword. Now that doesn't seem to have had a previous outing. So I'm guessing that that was a Door original too. Well, it doesn't say so. But, the history of a lot of Moorcock's books is so convoluted, it's hard to keep up with what's original, what was printed later and slotted in, and it's a minefield. But anyway, that's the fifth one, and I don't have that in any other copy. And then we had Stormbringer. That's the last in the Door series, which brings it up to date as of when this was published, which was November 1977, the first Door printing. Now that is actually a reprint of the original Lancer edition, but that had a lot missing from it. I just flicked through the two before we started here, and there's a whole chapter missing from this one. So there you are. So that was Elric in paperback up to then. Now I do have some other Elric books, but they're in hardback, and I'm gonna look at hardback stuff later on down the line, because Millennium, which was published by Ryan Group, I think it was, back in the early 90s. They did a definitive set of hardback volumes, very nice ones they are. I have 11 of them. I have two in the post, should arrive middle of next week, and I've still got the final volume to get. Now, and the reason that I haven't been able to complete, I mean, I've been at this for years. It's donkey's years since I bought my first three, a local bookshop. But it's just the prices of them, it's finding them. I mean, I think I've managed to find them all reasonably under about 10, 12 quid. When you look on eBay, look at the prices of some of them, I've seen them in three figures in actual fact. But I'll be showing you those at a later date because it's a very nice set. Now, when it comes to Moorcock stuff, as I say, that's the Elric stuff. I just picked out some of the more popular series because Moorcock invented this multiverse, and it takes in a lot of characters from different genres, and it gets really complex. So I decided to leave all that stuff out and just concentrate on the more famous, popular characters that he did. And one of those was Dorian Hawkmoon. Okay. Jewel in the Skull was the first, published again by Lancer. Now, I don't know this is an expurgated version, whether it's been reprinted at a later date. But that's the only one I have. And then Sorcerer's Amulet, the second in the series. Nice Jeff Jones cover there. I say Hawkmoon's one of the more recognisable characters. Sword of the Dawn was the fourth. Don't recognise that artist. Nothing on. And then we had the final volume, which was Secret of the Runestaff. But as I say, I'm just taking in his more well-known popular characters because Moorcock gets very messy. One of the Elric books that I should have shown you just now was this. It was a small press publication, Jade Man's Eyes, by Unicorn Fantasy, as you can see there. I don't know what the print run was. Cost me all of 25p at the time. It's very nicely printed. The pages are still white. So I haven't cracked the spine there. Right, we'll have less of that. Flatten that out at some stage. And then, as far as Moorcock's concerned, we have Count Brass. Now, the Count Brass was published in two sets of 3 books. I've not read any of these. Count Brass, that was, this one's in, apart from the fading on the spine there, which is unfortunate, this one's in kind of fine condition because the pages are not so bad. And this came out, it's actually, no, I think it's a first paperback, although it says reprint. I think it's a reprint of the hardback, 73, that one. Count Brass. And then the second volume was Champion of Garethorn. So I don't know what the quality of these books is because I haven't dipped into these characters yet. And that's the final volume of the Chronicles of Count Brass. Again, that one is actually in fine condition. You couldn't call it mint because the pages are a little brown, but it's certainly a nice copy. And then this was the, I'm getting mixed up, sorry, that was all of Count Brass. It was, I think it was Coram that had 6 books. So that's the Knight of the Swords. Shows how easy it is to get mixed up. Yep. So as I say, that's Coram, another one of his more famous characters. Queen of the Shroud. These were published. Actually, these were published before the Hawkmoon ones in '71, so I've got them out of order, but it doesn't matter because you can read these anytime, anyway. All of these multiverse stuff. That's the third one, Knight, King of the Swords. So that was, I think that was the first of the third of the first three, and then I did another three. These are all American Barclay editions. Chronicles of Overworld, number 4. Bull and the Spear. And then we had number 5, The Oak and the Ram. And the final one was Sword and the Stallion. That takes care of Coram. Then the only other two I've dragged out to show you was there's a character called John Dacre, who was reborn as a character called Ericos. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but Ericos, I think. That was the Eternal Champion with a nice Frank Frazetta cover there. That was another one of the more famous books. I mean, there were a lot of books, as I say, in this Chronicles of the Eternal Champion. That was Silver Warriors with a very nice Frazetta cover. And that is a character called Count Elric Skarsgård, who had a version of Stormbringer called Durandal, apparently. So it says on the back there, but as I say, if I have read these, I've forgotten them. After all this time, it's quite possible that I read them at the time, and now it's a mystery. Okay, so that was all the Moorcock stuff that I thought worth showing you. There is other stuff I have, but I'll deal with those when we get around to discussing Moorcock's multiverse. As I say, he brought a very high literary quality to this genre, and people do call him a hack, but he isn't by any means. Right, now this nice little series with Frazetta covers was Flashing Swords that Dell in America did. I'm fortunate enough to have a nice set of these in good condition. They're all sort of like near mint. And these cover a lot of the more famous characters from other writers. This one has, for instance, Fafford and the Grey Mouser by Fritz Leiber, you might have heard of, and then Jack Vance did a lot of fantasy. There's a Paul Anderson story, The Merman's Children, and Lynn Carter. The Higher Heresies of Ulma, I'm not familiar. But I bought them at the time because I loved Frazetta covers, and they seemed like an interesting set to have. And that's number 2. That's one of my favourite Frazetta covers of all time. I mean, I have 4 art books of Frazetta stuff, and this sort of stuff's in there, and it's full page, art book quality. So, but I still like to see them on the covers. This one had, this one's got the Jade Man's Eyes in. I showed you the book, the small press book earlier, and stuff by Andre Norton, John Jakes, and L. Sprague de Camp. I take it it's all kind of swords and sorcery stuff. And there's number 3, which unfortunately doesn't have a nice Rosetta cover. Sprague de Camp again, Fritz Lieber, Pfafferdin, the Grey Mouser, Andre Norton, Lynn Carter and Avram Davidson. As I say, these are all very nice, just a little bit of Browning. So, yeah. And number 4, again, that looks like a Michael Whelan cover, but you can't see it very well because it's tiny. We have Jack Vance, John Jakes, Michael Moorcock, with an Elric story. I don't know which Elric story is in this one, just out of interest. From the Cycle of Eric, The Lands Beyond the World. So I guess that will have been printed in another one of Elric, Moorcock's books later on. Okay, right. This is the Pfafford and the Grey Mouser, Fritz Lieber's famous pair. I think that's a Jeff Jones cover, I believe, or maybe not. Not sure about that. I think that was the third in the I think he did 6 Pfafford and Mouser books. That's number 3, I believe. It doesn't say on there, but I believe it's number 3. And then that is I think that's the last of the 6 sorts of nice magic. I think DC did a series on Pfafford and the Mouser in graphic novel form, or in prestige form anyway. Yeah, it says there the 6th. I think that was the last one. And of course, the granddaddy of them all, Robert E. Howard. He's your guy who invented Conan, and Solomon Kane was one of his lesser lights, if you like. But still quite a well-known character. Interesting character because he reminds me of the Shadow with the hat. And that was the first of 2. It's interesting, that one, because it's got a fold out cover. So that was the first of 2. And the other one was House of the Dead. Not such a nice cover, unfortunately. But, you can see their first paperback publications. They were 1979, so a little bit later. Still vintage in my book and in very, very nice condition. It's a joy of having your own collection of these rather than having to rebuy them. In that most of my older books, if I bought them new, are still that way, and a lot of the second-hand ones even are not too bad. Right, fantasy-wise, that's quite a famous book by Robert Silverberg, Lord Valentine's Castle. I'm not familiar myself, but shame about the cover. That's a Josh Kirby artwork, but you can hardly see it. Shame, because Josh Kirby is actually a very good artist. So yeah, that's one of the more famous fantasy novels of yesteryear. Now these ones, I just bought them because they had Don Mait's covers. I like Don Mait's; he's an excellent artist. The Orphan by Robert Stallman, which is a fantasy of some description. And then there was a second book called The Captive, also with a Don Mait's cover. I think these came out about the same time as The Shadow of the Torturer, which I've shown you before, but it's stuck with this little lot, so It's worth having a look. Here's another Don Mates lovely cover. I suppose there's some argument about whether this is, well, I read this, very, very good book. Some argument about whether that's science fiction or fantasy, but I will not get into that particular discussion. And that's the second one, which I have yet to read, Claw of the Conciliator. I don't have the other two books in that particular series, but needless to say, I will be picking them up at some stage. And then I just thought I'd show you this one because he's a stalwart of the fantasy genre, Jack Vance, Eyes of the Overworld. I mean, I only picked that up recently, well, a couple of years ago, because I love that cover. I have no idea who it's by, but it just appealed to me, the colour of it, the look of it. I've not read any Jack Vance, to be honest, but as you can see there, it's Mayflower science fantasy rather than fiction, so I must get around to reading some Jack Vance because people tell me he's a good author. So yeah, so that's my little stack of swords and sorcery, come fantasy books that I kept over the years. I have picked up a few Moorcocks and stuff, but as I say, I'm not going to get into that whole multiverse thing. I just thought before we finish, I just thought I'd show you these with very nice Jeff Jones covers. Fantastic and, well, both Fantastics. They used to do a lot of swords and sorcery stuff. These came out alongside Analog and Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. I suppose, I don't know, I mean, people do refer to them as pulps, but they're more like small magazines to me, I don't know. They certainly don't fit the description of a pulp as I know them, but I like them because they're easily stored, and some of them got some very, very nice covers. Also, some good stories. That one, as you can see, has a Moorcock short story there, and that one is a new Conan novella by Sprague de Camp and Lynn Carter. Also got a few other stories by some people I've never heard of. But yeah, I mean, these are always worth keeping because the price of these can only go upwards, especially when you have nice Jeff Jones covers. Okay, folks, so that's all I have to show you today. I will be along with that set of Moorcock hardbacks as soon as I manage to source the last one at a decent price. So yeah, before I go, thank you for watching and thank you for subscribing. Continue to do so, and I'll be along maybe with a pickups video in a week or two. Bye bye now. Bye.